Hi, everybody, and welcome back. And thanks for joining us on this Wednesday, the last day of news for this holiday week. And happy Thanksgiving on that note. So glad, as always, to have you with us. And so glad to have you with us before we leave you for the holiday weekend. We hope it's going to be joyous and safe and calm for everyone, whether you're shopping, eating, resting, or any or all of the above. We have a great deal of news to cover this evening before we leave you for the Thanksgiving holiday. That, of course, will include updating you on your forecast where it has changed just a bit. Saturday not looking as wet as it did. The time frame has basically bumped up. We'll talk about that in more detail. And we'll still talk about some rains which are going to set in for days possibly once they do officially get here. McGoffin County Fiscal Court met yesterday. Among other items on the agenda, they did appoint 3 members to the McGoffin County Library Board. The judge did, as well as swearing in of an individual to fill his late father's term. We'll take you to that portion of the meeting. I also have an announcement that I'm going to tag along. It's been a report that I've been holding on to for a while, but I don't have that report together, so I'm going to at least make mention of this very prestigious designation. A meth lab, and more than a lab, was broken up last night by the McGoffin County Sheriff's Department. Meth precursors, spent meth labs, and items literally strewn about the property. There were 3 arrests, and I've got other news to follow. Your calendar before we leave you for the holiday weekend with some important updates and activities and much, much more. It's always I don't like seeing it because when I do, well, it means that it's imminent, and we know it is. It's just a stark reminder. I'm speaking of the Transportation Cabinet, specifically District 10, which includes McGoffin and Morgan counties in my viewing area, but they, as well as the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet as a whole, have set their snow and ice removal priorities for this upcoming winter season. No major changes. The roadways, of course, for the most part, staying as they were. Changes to the Mountain Parkway, of course, but that doesn't mean it's still designated as being the first priority or the A priority class. But they are responsible for keeping up and clearing 1,800 miles of state-maintained roadway in District 10, keeping it passable during the bad weather, and that amounts to nearly 3,800 lane miles of highways that have to be treated and plowed during each snowstorm. And we're looking for some pretty active winter weather this time around, so they will have indeed their work, as always, cut out for them. Priority A routes include the major thoroughfares, through routes, and those that are most heavily traveled in each county. In McGoffin County, of course, that's the Mountain Parkway, US 460, portions of Route 7, Kentucky 30, 40, and 114. In Morgan County, the Mountain Parkway as well, Kentucky 7, a portion of 172, 203, 205, and 519. And then, of course, Priority B is next, and Priority C is next thereafter. And no significant changes to that list, but a designation that is made each and every year, and one that, once again, just serves as a reminder, like it or not, of what's around the corner. We'll talk about what's around the corner in the short term in our weather in a few moments. Right now, we'll talk about a meth lab that was broken up last night by the McGoffin County Sheriff's Department. 3 arrests altogether. The sheriff says they had received several anonymous tips. 2 deputies approached the property on foot so as not to alert their presence. And it was quite disturbing and a little scary, to be quite honest, about all the materials that were found strewn about the property. Montgomery County Sheriff Carson Montgomery says that 2 of his deputies responded to an anonymous tip and numerous reports of possible meth activity at this location on Route 40, specifically this camper trailer which has been lived in and parked next to an abandoned mobile home about 5 miles out of Sagersville on the left at the residence and property of a Timothy Lemaster. He says his 2 deputies walked in on foot to the residence as to not to alert anyone who may be at the residence, including the individual who lives there. And upon making entry to the camper trailer, they did find Lemaster as well as a female, and ultimately found a third person, a male, in a vehicle they believe attempting to hide from authorities outside in the driveway. They also found inside and outside the camper a multitude and numerous items: meth labs, precursors, discarded items, and materials which have been just literally thrown about the entire property. Spent meth labs, old lithium batteries which had been taken apart and dismantled to use for the proper material that is needed to make the dangerous and highly illegal drug, as well as other items, including a needle with a clear liquid in it just lying outside several feet from the camper in the grass. Numerous items which can be seen here, and indeed there were many more. Generators A part of the process of making meth could be found littered around the property. At least one believed to be active meth lab was inside a kitchen cabinet, and other items, as you can see, literally littering the entire property. The DESI unit of the Kentucky State Police was called in to come in and clean up and dismantle the lab, any other labs, and all dangerous and or toxic materials, while all 3 individuals were taken to the Big Sandy Regional Detention Center. All 3 individuals were charged and lodged in the Big Sandy jail, where one remains at this hour, that being Timothy LeMaster, charged with manufacturing meth, possession of a controlled substance, unlawful possession of meth precursors, possession of drug paraphernalia. He was also served with an outstanding warrant, charges of which were unknown. A citation filled out by Deputy Neil Adams of the Sheriff's Department says that Myrtle L. Howard was charged with possession of methamphetamine, possession of Suboxone, also illegal possession of a legend drug, and possession of drug paraphernalia. He says that he observed her to be in possession of a syringe loaded with a liquid that he suspected to be methamphetamine, and that she was also in possession of several white tablets as well as half of an orange tablet believed to be Suboxone. And the third individual was identified as Damian Spears, who was found moments later after the initial investigation began in a parked car outside. He was charged with public intoxication of a controlled substance, excluding alcohol. The 2 deputies which responded to the initial complaint and made the arrest were Jonathan Holbrook and Deputy Neil Adams. A former Johnson County educator has been sentenced to well more than 10 years in federal prison. We'll talk about his sentence and his years of supervised release, which even outnumber the years to which he will spend in federal prison. That report and more news to follow. Stay tuned. He's a former Johnson Central High School teacher who now has a Versailles address. Nevertheless, he has already admitted to sexually exploiting a minor student, and he has now officially been sentenced to 14 years in federal prison as a result of his crimes. Just yesterday, U.S. District Judge Danny Reeves sentenced 26-year-old Robert Cantrell for illegally enticing a minor to engage in sexual activity. And the judge further ordered that Cantrell serve 15 years of supervised release after he is let out. And under federal law, of course, he must serve at least 85% of his prison term. Earlier this year, he admitted that last year in 2014, he had enticed a minor student to text him sexually explicit images of the student engaging in a sexually explicit conduct, and he also admitted that he had induced the minor student to engage in sexual acts with him. Going back to our initial report that I first aired in October of last year when the story first broke, school officials stated to authorities at that time that the 25-year-old had actually been fired just before the school year was set to begin, after they learned that sometime in that month of June he had had this illegal contact with the minor student. Cantor was said to be a 2007 graduate of Johnson Central High School who had returned to teach at that facility. I've got some birthdays and some other things to pass along on our community calendar, passed along to you nightly by McGoffin Farm Bureau, mind you. The first couple that I'll read through real quickly. Rumpke, a reminder, running extra early, but running tomorrow, so get your garbage out late tonight or very, very early in the morning. They're going to make all efforts to get home and spend Thanksgiving with their families tomorrow evening. And I had on my schedule today to make it down to the Elk Creek Free Will Baptist Church. They're holding their last Wednesday night service at their former facility tonight, and their first Sunday service will be at their new church this coming weekend. And I was invited down by my friend J.R. Rao, and Pastor Paul Heiner was going to be there. And we had some technical difficulties here in the studio that kind of kept me detained, but I told them I would make any and all effort to get there at some point or other. But I need to mention that you are invited to the dedication of their church. It's going to be this Sunday in the afternoon at 2 o'clock following services. They hope you'll come down and join them. And, of course, you're welcome to join them for services as well at the new Elk Creek Free Will Baptist Church. A reminder, next week, specifically next Friday, the McGoffin County Extension Office has their Holiday Wreath Workshop. I'll tell you about it then. You pay $10. They give you all the materials and the greenery and everything to make your own holiday wreath. You bring it home with you. A wonderful evening. Maybe something fun for the kiddos to do as well. I'll remind you next week. Their 16th annual Christmas open house is still coming up, and that's coming up next week at the Keeping Room And I'll talk more about that next week, but just a quick reminder that they're having their 16th annual open house next Friday and Saturday, and of course spice, cider, and refreshments, and all the neat things that you can find in the keeping room in West Maple Street in Sayersville. Candy Cane Lane is now open. That's all I'm going to say for this particular time. It comes up in a later report in just a few moments, so just one more reminder, Candy Cane Lane on the Ivy Point Hill, specifically the Gardner Farm, is open. Santa is more than likely going to be at the end of the lane, should you check him out. We'll talk more about that in just a second. In a related matter, right now, further announcements via tonight's McGoffin Farm Bureau Community Calendar. And those are birthday wishes. I got a bunch of them. Love to do them. 52nd birthday wishes go out to Dora Ann Collett with a whole lot of love from Mom. Happy 52nd birthday to you, Dora Ann. Happy birthday. We've got birthday wishes going out to Evan Wiley Joseph with lots of love from Mom, Nan, and the fam. Happy 23rd birthday to Evan Wiley Joseph. I've got a birthday wish going out to a couple of backs. The first one being Gordon Back, who is being wished a whole lot of birthday thoughts from his family and from a whole lot of friends. Happy birthday to Gordon Back this Wednesday. And a happy birthday wish goes out to Doug Back. This also courtesy and via his family and a whole lot of friends. Birthday wishes going out to Doug Back this Wednesday as well. And remember, when you've got birthday, anniversary, or church or organizational announcements like you just heard, send them to us. Mail, phone, fax, email, Facebook, they're all here, and you can always drop them off at the studio. And if we're not here, which we often aren't, you can leave them in the brass box on the front door. And remember, programming can be seen the following day in case you missed it or need to catch it again on our website at yournewstoday.com. One funeral service announcement for this Wednesday. It comes in honor of Esta Marie Jones, the infant daughter of Franklin Jones and Brittany Dawn Salyer. She passed away on November the 24th. Graveside services have been set in her honor for this Friday morning at 11 o'clock at the Salyer Cemetery at Flat Gap. The Preston Funeral Home in Paintsville is in charge of arrangements. McGoffin County Fiscal Court met in special session yesterday evening. Several items on the agenda, including the swearing in of a local man to fill his late father's term. A relatively brief but to-the-point special session. After payment of the bills, a fund transfer, some $28,000 from the general fund to the jail fund, the fiscal court approved a $500 donation to the Sayersville Hometown Christmas Committee to help decorate the downtown area. A little more than $2,000 was forwarded to the Ramey Park. The remainder of some insurance funds that were sent to the county in lieu of some storm damage from straight-line winds some time back. The 2016 McGoffin County Court Clerk budget was approved. Renee Arnett Shepherd, County Court Clerk, saying there were no changes from last year. The fiscal court voted to advertise for some steel for FEMA work. There was a reappointment to the position of the Search and Rescue Coordinator for McGoffin County, that of McGoffin County Rescue Squad Captain Carter Conley. They recognized Ben Gardner and the Gardners and Candy Cane Lane, which is open, which is also something I'll talk about briefly in just a second. And they also discussed the McGoffin County Library Board, which has had only one member since the remaining four resigned during their last regular session meeting. This was the discussion that followed as the judge and fiscal court filled 3 of those vacant seats.
The state librarian and I have had a discussion about filling of the library board. And I wanted to try to make sure that there was someone from each district, and the gender as well as the party affiliation were as close to equal as possible. He has submitted 6 names, of which I'm to recommend 3 to the board, and the 4 board members will then select someone. 2 names to turn in, which will come back through the process again. And I think that, I hope what they will do is to consider putting someone on that was from the group that really became involved and wanted to not have the whole church torn down. So it's my motion that the following people be named and recommended to the library board. I will have to figure out how they work in terms of staggering their terms. Lana Blanton, Barbara Patrick, Brett Patrick. Is there a second? Motion been made and second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. The last item on the agenda is to officially announce that I'm going to appoint to fill out the term of Mr. Fonzie Howard, his son Ronnie, who is here today for us to swear in. That is not something that has to be cleared by the fiscal court, but I think that we should all tell him welcome and that you have extremely high shoes to fill, big shoes. Fonzie was a personal friend of mine. He was a patient of mine, but he also really loved the people. And he escorted a lot of those funerals. And he took pride in that. And people took pride that Fonzie would do that for them. And if you've ever had a loved one, most of us here on this court have lost someone close to them, you know that's when your feelings are the rawest. You remember everything that people did for you. You don't forget that. And that, quite frankly, is why Fonzie is very beloved. He'll be very missed.
That'll wrap it up for fiscal court coverage. Not for the show. Stay tuned. We'll wrap it up with a few last items of business, including still something I have to discuss about Candy Cane Lane and the Gardner Farm real briefly. I'll be right back. I've been holding on to this letter now for a few days, and I still will be making a story out of it, and I'll probably do a little double duty and go down and check out Candy Cane Lane one evening and maybe try to find Ben or maybe Santa or somebody down there who can shed a little light on it and talk about it. And we spoke about the application process, I think, back when it was made, but it is now official. A letter penned by Craig Potts. He is the executive director and the State Historic Preservation Officer with the Kentucky Tourism, Arts, and Heritage Cabinet. And this is the letter that he penned to Ben Gardner and the Gardners in regards to the Gardner House. The Kentucky Heritage Council says they were pleased to inform them that the property has now been entered officially into the National Register of Historic Places as of the 29th day of September. That gives special recognition that the site has great historic, architectural, or archaeological significance within the context of community, state, and the nation, and that he was very proud to be able to make the announcement and delighted, as he can only assume, and as do we, that the Gardners are as well. So keep that in mind when you're venturing down to Candy Cane Lane, that the old Gardner home place is now officially listed upon the National Register of Historic Places. And we'll be talking more about that soon. Candy Cane opens around dark each night, and I believe stays lit up till around 10 or so. Don't forget, Santa Claus is usually out there milling around, checking on the lights, and making sure that everyone's, either been naughty or nice. Now let's turn to the nice Licking Valley RECC forecast, where we've got a beautiful Thanksgiving in store. And I mean beautiful. Not so beautiful is the weekend when the rains set in. Our next weather maker is going to be a wet one. But for now, enjoy it, because here's what we've got. A low of 31 tonight, mostly clear. Look for a mild southeast wind, 3 to 5 miles per hour. That's just about going to sum up your beautiful Wednesday. Tomorrow, Thanksgiving, a very special day. And we mean to have a special forecast for you, too. 65, mostly sunny, a low of 40 tomorrow night, partly cloudy, dry, clear, gorgeous, an absolutely gorgeous Thanksgiving in store. We sincerely hope you have time to enjoy it as much as possible with whoever you choose, eating whatever you so choose to eat. And now keep in mind, Friday's forecast is a bit better. We still have that 20% chance of showers, but it's even later than what I had originally thought. So we're going to stick to 66, mostly sunny and dry for most all of your Friday, with a pretty mild low of 47. A 20% chance of showers right now. That's not going to factor in, I don't think, until after 11, maybe even midnight. Saturday, well, that's another story. We're talking about those showers throughout the day. We have like a 50% chance throughout much of the day, and then showers becoming much more likely and inevitable as the day goes on. And a bit cooler, 58 and 45. Maybe a nap, maybe just time to hit the couch, maybe some football, maybe time to digest, whatever, or shop, whatever you so choose. But indoors is going to be the place to be, and I think that trend's going to continue. Sunday, we've got more showers in the forecast, and showers likely again, maybe even more so than Saturday. I think a good inch and a half, we're talking about the entire rain event, is likely for a lot of us, maybe even. And some of us, before it's over, and it won't be over for quite some time, maybe even see a little bit more rainfall than that, because showers are still in the forecast Monday and into Tuesday, and then starting to slack off by Wednesday, with Saturday and Sunday being the heaviest 2 days, Sunday the heaviest of those. That's going to wrap up your forecast, but once again, our focus is a beautiful Thanksgiving. And that's going to wrap it up for us this Thanksgiving Eve. We sincerely want to take just a brief moment in closing to say that we wish you the happiest of Thanksgivings. We hope you have time to spend it with your family, friends, and loved ones. We hope you have some time off and time to enjoy that time off. The rain over the weekend might actually help with that. And we also hope that everyone maybe takes a few moments to stop and pause and maybe remember someone who may not be having the happiest of holidays for whatever reason. With that, stay safe, stay warm, and be sure to stay tuned to Your News Today. Next Monday, I suspect we'll be playing a lot of catch-up with a lot of breaking and other news. See you then. Happy Thanksgiving, and good night.